So it gets both clearer and murkier as we learn more details about the assassination of Haitian President Jovenel Moïse. 3 suspects have been killed so far, 17 have been detained, and another 8 are being tracked down. So Haitian authorities have said that the assassination involved foreign forces, and the police have identified more than 24 people involved in the assassination, including 26 Colombians and 2 Americans of Haitian descent. So this is according to investigative judge Clement Noel, who told the French language newspaper Le Noveliste that the Haitian-Americans arrested James Solages and Joseph Vincent said the attackers originally planned on only to arrest Moïse, not to kill him. Noel and Solages and Vincent were acting as, or he said that the 2 were acting as translators for the attacks, and the attackers, nothing more, which just kind of feels like aiding and abetting, but a little bit more about them. It's very fascinating, and I feel like, again, this is one of those stories just gonna keep on unfolding. So one of the Americans is James J. Solages, a US citizen who lived in South Florida and previously worked as a security guard at the Canadian embassy in Haiti. The other was identified as Joseph Vincent, 55. So remember how there was someone who yelled out DEA in English? Not that that's that hard or the letters are different, but when this attack happened, someone yelled out DEA. The Judge Noel says that was Mr. Solages, who yelled that the assailants were agents of the US Drug Enforcement Agency over a loudspeaker at the start of the assault. There's a lot more detail on these guys, but they are 2 of a lot of people who, from all looks of it, were mercenaries. Clearly, we don't know yet who ordered this hit, why they ordered this assassination, but they were all mercenaries.
Yeah, this is super strange. And so there's definitely fog of war here. This is one of those stories where you're not gonna know what happened for some time. And more important, and the reason why I'm giving you this warning here is sometimes the so-called facts that come out in the first 24 to 48 hours aren't true at all, and they get changed later, right? And so that's why there's no conclusions at all here. Certainly for me, there's just not enough information. But now let's talk about the things that are really interesting. Of the 17 people that they have arrested, a lot of them are Colombian soldiers. So that's super weird, right? What are Colombian soldiers doing in an assassination of the Haitian president? Well, one piece of speculation is that, and this is in the mainstream media as well, so it's not like this is wild speculation. And the US, sometimes the Colombian, ex-Colombian military are used as mercenaries or private security because they were trained by the Americans. And they were trained by the Americans because they're fighting leftists in Colombia. And so, of course, leftists as in, hey, you're trying to reclaim the natural resource of your own country. So, of course, America will help the other side murder you. And also they're fighting the drug lords, etc. So, highly trained in extreme killing. Let's just keep it real, right? And then you've got the 2 Americans there. So does that mean the Americans did it? No, I have no idea, right? Is it possible? Of course it's possible. But when we say Americans, I don't even know what that means. Americans what? DEA, CIA, for what reason? I have no idea. Or it could be that, no, it's just those 2 Haitian Americans were randos who were actually translating. What is not possible is that this didn't have a purpose. No, it definitely had a purpose. But we have no idea who did it and why they did it, what that purpose was.
Right. Right, absolutely, and I am surprised to hear some of that and see some of that supposition in the mainstream media also, because it's a pretty big allegation. But then again, these are all, they're definitely mercenaries, and it makes sense to say if they were Colombian, chances are the United States, which has put millions of dollars into the fighting the FARC in Colombia, a lot of which, once again, the amount of corruption involved in that entire fight and drug money as well is uninvestigated. I mean, it's just a bottomless pit also. But so it's not a stretch to imagine that they were American trained. It doesn't mean the US was behind it. In fact, we know that the United States, including Biden, was supportive of Moïse and his presidency, even though, and I wanna go to this, obviously, if you didn't know, Haiti had become very unstable under Moïse, who had been ruling by decree for more than a year and faced violent protests as critics have accused him of trying to amass more power while the opposition demanded he step down. Now, I wanna just name that like there's a lot of now political turmoil for multiple reasons. COVID is one of them. COVID took out a Supreme Court justice, I believe, who would have stepped in, meaning killed him, he died of COVID. But within Haiti now, there is an interim president, but there's also some infighting. So the political storm in Haiti intensified on Thursday as two competing prime ministers claimed the right to run the country, setting up an extraordinary power struggle over who has the legal authority to govern after the brazen assassination of President Jovenel Moïse in his home the day before. Haiti's Prime Minister Claude Joseph says he has taken command of the police and the army. He has also declared a state of siege that essentially puts the country under martial law, although constitutional experts questioned his right to impose it, and a rival quickly challenged his claim to power. Because 2 days before his death, Mr. Moïse, remember the president who was assassinated, appointed Ariel Henry, a neurosurgeon, as a prime minister, as a new prime minister. Mr. Henry, who was supposed to take up the role this week, told the local newspaper after the presidential assassination that he was the rightful prime minister. Okay, so obviously Haiti is worried and Haitians are worried. So what they have done is they've asked for international help. They've asked it of the international community, but specifically of the United States, which is not necessarily always a good idea. The Haitian National Police have requested US assistance, according to the Biden administration, which is deploying senior FBI and DHS officials to assess the situation.
Okay, I'm gonna do 1% speculation here and then get to something important. Usually if the US does something, not only will the government furiously deny it and call any allegations conspiratorial, but usually the mainstream media will join in on that and make it seem like, oh, there's such a ridiculous idea that America did that coup. And then you'll find out, 3 weeks later, 6 months later, oh yeah, of course we did the coup, right? But in this case, the fact that they're open to discussing the American connections, ironically makes me think maybe we didn't do it. So I know that like when it's in the Americas and someone gets assassinated and it's not America who did it, it's always a shock. Like, really, that was someone else, huh? Right? But again, here we really don't know. So, but there is a clue in what Francesca just told you, because that is awfully strange that Ariel Henry was supposed to take the prime ministership, and he was appointed 2 days ago, and then the leader of Haiti gets assassinated, and all of a sudden another guy says, okay, now I'm the interim prime minister, and we're not gonna let that guy take over. That's like one of those things that makes you go,
Yeah.
Okay, and now will lead to far more instability in Haiti, and I feel terrible for the citizens of Haiti, for having to go through all of this turmoil. And as one citizen told the press, said, look, if the leader of the country can get assassinated in his own home, that means none of us are safe. And there's unfortunately some truth to that.
Absolutely, and COVID is compounding that, although it seems like COVID is not Haitians' first worry. But I do wanna mention that there are elections supposedly in September. So we will see. I know that I believe like the UN Special Rapporteur on Haiti, someone, don't quote me on that, but there was a press conference. She was saying there needs to be the election, and most folks are looking at September and saying there still needs to be this election. That's how we know. That's how we can actually get on the right track. Again, the problem is that this is not always a priority for the United States, and especially when it comes to the people who are trying to either flee Haiti or remain in the United States, right? We know that Biden has deported Haitians who were seeking asylum in the US back to this unstable country and under COVID, in fact, using COVID as a pretext. But the United States has not always seen Haiti as a strategic country, right? As Cenk said, we're usually behind a lot of the coups, right? If it matters to our strategic advantage. Haiti, it's unclear. So here is a clip from the current president, but in the early 90s, speaking about Haiti just off the cuff, and listen to the tone and how he is referring to this country and its strategic interests to the United States.
If Haiti, a god-awful thing to say, if Haiti just quietly sunk into the Caribbean or rose up 300 feet, it wouldn't matter a whole lot in terms of our interest.
Okay, so if Haiti sunk into the Caribbean, it wouldn't matter to the United States. And yeah, in fact, a giant earthquake did hit Haiti. It did sort of rise and fall 500 feet in the air. And apparently a lot of the aid money that was given to Haiti was also misspent. And Haitians are still reeling from that tragedy. Cenk, what are your thoughts on just seeing, can we believe that Biden now cares about this country?
Look, we gave Biden credit earlier in the show for getting out of Afghanistan. And so, and I actually think in some of the policy positions he had really like long time ago on Iraq, he was also right about, and we talked about that a million years ago. Definitely not on the original invasion of Iraq, he was dead wrong. And that leads me to my overall point. It's not every day that you will find an establishment Democrat like Joe Biden being right on foreign policy. That's why we like almost played fireworks earlier today, where we're like, oh my God, he got something right on Afghanistan. Yes, right. So, right. And the thing about Biden is that, and this is an upside and a downside. He will often blurt out things that he shouldn't say out loud, but he does. And so, no, you shouldn't say that it wouldn't matter to us if a country sank into the ocean, especially one as close as Haiti, just out of decency, let alone anything else. But is Haiti a giant, strategic interest of America? Probably not. I think if we were decent people, we would care nonetheless. And that's what progressives are trying to drive towards, because we believe everybody is human and we should care about them. But it would be surprising. That's why I have some, let's just put it this way. It would be surprising if America cared enough, because historically we haven't shown a ton of care towards Haiti, right? If we cared enough to do a coup or anything along those lines in Haiti. So that's why this story is really interesting and developing. And again, I have no idea who did it.
Yeah, no, and I want two last things is that, I think we have to look at the ways that the United States and the media talks about Haiti and politicians versus a country like Venezuela, right? Oil rich, tries to nationalize its oil. Any country that has rich resources that are in our strategic interest, that at all is a little bit bending towards the left, right? That is trying to nationalize their own resources. Oh, then they're terrible. We should probably coup them. Let's send Richard Branson in there to have like a concert on the border, and that won't do any harm. That'll be great, ended horribly. Like the way that we talk about Latin American countries is only relational to whether the United States corporations can make a profit off of them. And I will say that when it comes to Haiti, there is no one who made more of a profit and who oversaw that profit than the Clintons. And Bill and Hillary Clinton using Haiti as this example of a neoliberal free trade zone for companies like Hanes Underwear, Victoria's Secret, other like garment workers, right? And actually fought against raising the minimum wage in Haiti at the behest of American corporations, and of course under the guise of, we're bringing development. This is great. This is development. Well, and that was, you saw that clip from Biden in 93 or 94. Meanwhile, the Clintons are like, no, I think it's strategic to us and American corporations. And now, 30 years later, what state is Haiti in, right? No one was actually concerned about the stability or democracy of Haiti. It was just helping American corporations, and who cares if they're getting paid pennies on the dollar.
Okay, I want to agree with Fran again 1,000,000%, and just add one quick thing to that. Think about it, guys. There's dozens of dictators throughout the world. Who are the two countries that we constantly target for like, oh, we are concerned about they're dictators and authoritarian governments and they're ruining their country? Venezuela and Iran. You want to know what connects Venezuela and Iran? The only thing that connects them. They're both top 5 oil producers. So good news, bad news for Haiti. You don't have a lot of natural resources, but that means we're a lot less likely to demagogue against you and invade you. So take it or leave it, but that's the reality of American politics. And isn't it amazing that the mainstream media never pointed out that connection between Venezuela and Iran? Okay, we got to take a break here, guys. We got another great segment for you guys when we come back. And by the way, Fran and I are going to do the bonus episode where we have one of the craziest TV segments you'll ever see in your life. So hit the join button below to get the members only segment, or go to tyt.com/join. Thanks for watching the Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.